to Contemplative Talk number 7. This is the Silent Mystic. Thank you for being here today to sit together in meditation and contemplation. These words that you hear come out of the silence in which we are sitting together. As you listen to the silence, be aware of this space within you. As the words come and go, they may direct your mind in certain ways, but try not to hold on to any thought. The words arise from the stillness that we sit in, but they are not meant to be engaged with extensively or for any sort of intellectual entertainment. They are meant to encourage the mind to seek higher in wisdom and to seek deeper within the self. There is no other motivation for such words, for all words must disappear into the silence, and they are an indication that everything is only temporary. So I invite you to take a comfortable seat where you feel relaxed but alert, keeping the spine straight. However you can best sit for a longer period of time. And it's best to sit with this talk through its entirety to allow this message to permeate your consciousness. Oftentimes, the mind is looking through different sources for a quick fix. The ego hijacked mind is in a constant state of frenzy. It doesn't want to rest. And so it looks about on TV, on the internet, on social media for any sort of quick fix. And these sources do deliver, in that sense, a quick message of some sort. And even if it happens to be the right message, it does disappear after a point, and then the mind is on a search again. That's why it keeps scrolling through content, trying to find the next video to watch. And if they are feeding the mind some sort of wisdom, then this can be useful, but we must pay attention to the mind's seeming inability to rest in this present moment. It is the ego thought system that is pulling the mind here and there. So it may occur to such a mind to hang out in this space for a minute and then jump off to the next thing. But as long as the mind doesn't sink deeply enough into anything, then it continues bouncing, it continues grasping and jumping from one branch to another. And that's why they call it the monkey mind, because in the same way that a monkey jumps from one branch or vine to another, swinging from one thing to another, the ego hijacked mind is doing the same thing with thought forms, with objects to engage with in the world. It tells itself that it doesn't have the capacity to sit for longer than a minute or two. But in such a state, you cannot gain the benefit from this experience. This experience is meant to be engaged with and sat with through its entirety. And by the end, you will notice that the mind has opened up in some way. You might notice people in this world that are very busy going from one task to another. And there's nothing wrong with it as such, except it comes from a mentality of the mind to always be busy and be engaged with something so that it doesn't have to sit and rest in God, in its true self, in the present moment. And this is problematic because as long as the mind doesn't rest deeply in this moment, it is always caught in time. It is always swinging between the branches of past and future. And this does not serve you because it creates a great deal of suffering. Your true desire is to come into this present moment and be at peace, to rest in peace. And it seems to be that this world only declares this as possible when one is so-called dead, to rest in peace when the body is dead or the spirit has seemingly left this body, or the mind has let go of its identification with this body. But you can question this. Is this really true? Is this the only way that I can truly rest in peace? Or can I start this resting even right now in this moment? Because you cannot rest in peace in a future moment. You can only do so right now. And while this body seems to be traveling through time, your awareness, your true reality, is not tied to this body in any way. So you, the real you, which is not physical, is always resting in peace. So tune into that one. When you rest deeply in this moment, the mind doesn't need anything else. It is perfectly happy and content right here and now. And so, to get the most out of this experience, it is best to stay and rest without the need to do anything, without the need to take notes or engage with this content intellectually, without trying to memorize or learn anything, just sitting in this space, allowing it to be, and realizing that the mind may try to run away, to escape, but this is all a form of its own suffering. But when it surrenders deeply to this moment, then there's nowhere to go, nowhere to be. You can only ever be here and now. So rest. There's a belief with the ego mind that there's always something to do. There's always something that needs to be done. And so its attention is taken away into the busyness of the world. And it is told that you cannot fully rest, and you can never rest until you are dead. There's a saying, I will sleep when I'm dead. And this is essentially the ego's motto. It's one of the daily grind, working very hard to prove one's self-worth, to earn value, what they call the net worth in this world. That's what it's called, net worth, is something that you seem to need to earn through hard work, through grind, and there is no resting here. This is all the programming that has been given to you since you were born. And I may say false born into this world, because to be so-called born into this world as a human, as a body, is not anything to be ecstatic about, because this is an illusion. This is a state where you have forgotten yourself. So to be born into an illusion is nothing to celebrate. It is nothing to celebrate nor lament. The ego can get caught into either one. It can get caught into overly celebrating something that is an illusion, or it can get caught into lamenting and feeling sorry for itself and dragging the mind further into misery. You need not lament your birth date in this world, nor celebrate it without understanding what it really means. From the time you are so-called born into this world, You have been programmed by the ego belief that you need to work hard to earn love, to earn your worth, and to create somehow a net worth for yourself that is given through the object of money. Money being an object that seems to manifest in different forms, whether it's numbers in a bank account or cash in the form of paper or gold or different so-called precious metals, resources, or shares in a kind of stock in companies or cryptocurrencies. It seems that money flows, this energy called money flows through different forms. And this world tells us that this constitutes our net worth. Our true net worth is infinite. Our true net worth is established by God. And there's nothing you need to do to acquire that. And while each of us seems to be going through this ladder, corporate ladder, or climbing some kind of ladder of achievement in the world, the mind doesn't realize that it's playing a game of trying to earn love. And in this state of competition and the game of scarcity, for which resources are very limited, and only a few have access to a great many objects in money or of these resources. Only the top 1% or 10% seem to control that money and wealth and so-called net worth. This is actually an outward projection of the ego control of the mind. The mind has given its power away to this ego thought system, so the ego seems to control most of the mind, control its thinking. And that's why you see people walking along in this world behaving like zombies that are programmed to think in certain ways. And when you question their conditioning, they become angry and defensive because it's hitting at this programming and the very ego self-concept that the mind is trying to uphold. As long as you are working very hard for your net worth, you don't realize your true infinite worth. Even if you have $1 billion in this world, it is still in the world of the finite. And the finite does not constitute your net worth. Your net worth is infinite in God. The love of God is infinite. And that love is for you. That love is you. Your net worth is like the rays of the sun, and you are the sun itself. It shines indefinitely. Day in and day out, it pours forth its great rays and gives life to everything. The sun is actually a symbol pointing back to your true source. And of course, in the world of duality, you may say that the sun has a limited time, a limited lifespan. And yes, in the world of time, this is the case, but in the real world, there is only the eternal. Duality is the world of temporary objects that arise and pass away. And this is why it is foolish to become attached to any such objects or situations or people. As any words are spoken here, they always dissolve into the silence. You can realize this as you let go of each word, as you allow and let go. And this is the practice of the one who moves through the world, who is awakening to its own divine nature. Rest in God. The objects of this world, of the perceptual world, and the people, situations, if you notice carefully, each one seems to be garnering for your attention. If you truly rest and observe and become aware of the world around you, everything seems to be trying to get your attention. They say that this thing is very valuable, buy this object, or engage with this particular content. Or a person may behave in certain ways that is an attempt to gain your attention, to have your awareness placed upon them. Why is it that the whole world seems to be trying to get your attention? A world that has told you that you are not enough, that you are lacking in some way, that you need this or that to improve yourself. Why does such a world seek your attention? The world in itself has no value and it is meaningless. However, the only way that the ego thought system can get the mind to be interested in a meaningless world is to devalue the true self, the true nature of this mind, which is God, is to say that God doesn't exist, or God is not important, or your true self is this person. There's nothing to see here, says the ego. Don't go on that path of sitting in silence and finding out who you truly are. But instead, come and look at the shiny objects of this world. You really need this to make your skin look better. You really need to buy this service or this product. You really need to get this kind of job. You need to go to this place. There are advertisements all around, not just for products or services. But if you notice, everything in your perception is advertising itself to your attention. When you become still and you rest in this present moment, you start to become more lucid in this dream. And the ego does not want that. It wants to keep your mind constantly distracted in a frenzied state where it cannot rest. And when you come into this rested, lucid state where you are merely observing all that is going on, and how the world is trying to gain your attention, the objects in perception are trying to hijack your attention so that your energy, your awareness is drawn outward. And it doesn't matter what the object is. The ego does not particularly care if it's this person or this product or even an object of addiction. It doesn't matter because all of it is an addiction to going outward. As long as you turn away from your true self inward, the ego keeps this machine running, keeps the mind occupied with outside things. But as you slowly start to realize that your attention is deliberately being drawn away from yourself, you become aware of this fact that your attention is extremely precious. It is the most important thing in this world. And it is not of this world, which is why it is so precious. As long as the mind is drawn outward, the attention is drawn outward, it loses its power. It loses the power of heaven. You are giving your power away to the objects of this world. This is the only true power. Power is not what this world has told you it is. It does not reside in any particular person or position or in money. None of those things is true power. true power comes from the one, from your true self. It's a power that the ego hijacked mind that seems to be living in this world as a person, this mind does not even know at this point. It has forgotten its true power and its true nature. You don't know what true power really is. But for now, remember that your attention is extremely important. Are you going to give it away to the world, to the objects of this world, to people, to situations, all that seem to be dragging your attention away? And of course, each one seems to be very important in the moment. There seem to be many fires to put out or crises to take care of. This is all deliberate. It's a deliberate orchestration by the ego so that the mind doesn't wake up. When you are asleep, dreaming a dream, you are most engaged in the dream when it is frightening or traumatic or a nightmare of some sort. When the mind is so disturbed that it goes deep into that disturbance and becomes attached to the objects of the dream, pondering those situations, the best way to keep the mind asleep is to manifest a nightmare around you. A nightmarish world is a sure sign that the mind is deeply asleep. But a sign that the mind is waking up is a sense of peace, a sense of stillness, and a sense of lucidity, a sense that nothing can quite touch you, can harm you in any way. This is when the mind is gaining back its strength and its awareness of its true nature in God. As you start to become lucid in any dream, you start to notice how ridiculous the situations are, how nonsensical the behaviors are, how everything seems to be upside down and makes no sense. That's when the mind starts to become lucid and it becomes peaceful. A peaceful mind is a lucid mind, an arrested mind. That's why I encourage you to stay in this space and allow that lucidity to come through, releasing any sort of agitation, training the mind to rest in this present moment, letting go in each moment of those agitations, the constant sway back and forth, knowing that that is a deep state of unconsciousness. Through staying in this rested state, you are becoming more conscious, becoming more lucid, more peaceful, resting in the present moment. Even as objects, people, situations in the world demand your attention, a lucid mind doesn't get caught in those objects. And even if it does temporarily, it does not entirely believe those thought forms. Knowing that everything in your perception is just a projection of your own mind. A lucid mind does not get disturbed by the world's shenanigans. It does not get reactive to the different situations. It does not become agitated. When one is truly awake and lucid in the dream, it is called Jivan Mukti or Jivan Mukta. While in the body, you are awake. That is a kind of lucid dreaming state. And this is a very good state to be in. Some call it enlightenment. And to the extent that you are still in the world of duality, there is some truth to that. But true enlightenment means that you no longer see a world. And yes, that has been called as the death of the body. But you can experience the death of the body over and over without becoming awake. While the mind is still sleeping and dreaming, it is dreaming up a new body to project itself into. You want to become awake while you are in this dream, seemingly in this body, playing this character in the video game of life. What is called life in this world is not true life. It is not eternal life. So it is not real. It's a kind of false life, a fake life, similar to the one that you see in the movie The Truman Show. It is a fake reality. And once you realize this through the practice of meditation, specifically, meditation helps one to become more lucid. As you realize the unreality of this dream and seeing that everything is a set that is being constructed for you. Then you let go of what seemed to be so serious. You let go of your attachments to the different objects. The ego has created a kind of hierarchy as to what sort of objects are more important than others. For example, it places family at the very top, money at the very top, and so on, career, success, and other things as, as much lower. For example, the spiritual path. And these days it seems that spirituality is a trending topic, but true spirituality means going into your closet, shutting the door, and being with God in secret. It is not going out and teaching physical yoga classes, so called yoga. Yoga actually means union with God, and that's something that can only happen internally. It is not an external process, but the ego has projected the glittering world of spirituality as a trending topic, which is a subtle trap because true spirituality, as we walk up the mountain, as you go higher and higher, the air gets thinner and thinner, and it starts to feel more difficult. And it is a falling away of everything you've ever known. It is not light and fluffy as the different advertised services may seem. The experience can be very excruciating as different traumas and things come up from the mind to be released and healed. And yes, once they are released, that healed state is a very peaceful and light state indeed. In the hierarchy of ego illusions, one of the highest and seemingly most important idols that the ego makes is one of the romantic special relationship. This is one area where the mind can get truly caught up in the dream. The programming began from a very early age, from a very early time in the body or the person's seeming journey. The need to find the perfect partner or mate. Even a mind that seems to be becoming lucid, becoming awake, can all of a sudden get deeply caught up in the special relationship, the romantic fantasies that the ego has. And that fantasy is that there is a special object, a special person that will finally complete me. It projects this fantasy onto different ones. And at different times in your life, you may have noticed this projection where the object becomes an object of worship. It becomes an idol in your awareness. An idol is anything in the perceptual world that the mind the ego hijacked mind has held on to as its source, believing that this source will complete itself because it feels incomplete. And such an idol takes the mind's attention away from God, the true self. One of the biggest idols that the ego sells to the mind is that of the ultimate romantic special relationship. And it is called special because the ego deems certain forms as more important or special over others. But the reality is that all forms are meaningless. All forms are equal in that sense. But the ego tries to make differences and distinctions between the forms. And the reality is the mind experiences the world of duality and multiplicity as many distinct forms. So it may seem true in that sense, but all forms, while they do appear to be distinct and different, they are all equal in the sense that they are all objects of the dream. So none are more important than others. A homeless person is equally meaningless, ultimately, as Prince Charming. They are both one and the same in the sense that they are both forms which are ultimately unreal, that the mind is dreaming up. But in the ego system, it seeks to choose and select a certain special form that it believes will be its source of completion. And it projects all of its false hopes and dreams, essentially, the mind's true desire to be in union with God. The mind's true desire for divine union gets projected onto this idea of a romantic relationship. And this is why it is taught in A Course in Miracles, for example, that the special relationship is the ego's most boasted gift and also the greatest obstacle keeping you from heaven. Now, one can have a special relationship with any sort of thing. An alcoholic may be having a special relationship with alcohol, thinking that this object in perception is the savior. Or a food addict may have a special relationship with food, thinking that food is the source of all happiness and love. This is an indication of the deceived mind when it holds idols in its awareness, idols that take its attention away from the true self. And when one idol falls and the mind becomes disillusioned, perhaps with food that was not satisfactory, or alcohol that did not give the same effect that it did before, or a romantic relationship that fell apart and did not meet the expectations that the ego had put onto that relationship. What the mind believed would give it ultimate happiness and love and peace reveals itself to be nothing but a meaningless form, just something that the mind had projected its hopes and dreams onto that made it appear like something valuable and precious when seen through rose-colored glasses. But when the idol falls and the glasses smash into pieces, the mind becomes disillusioned. And this is a great point, a great opportunity, and a chance to awaken. It is a crossroads point where the mind can choose to either awaken and turn the attention that it gave to the idol back within to the true self and realize that the truth of what the mind was seeking is not out there. Or the mind may choose to become more unconscious and seek that desire for divine union in another object. So when one idol falls, the mind hits a crossroads point where it can choose to become more conscious and use this situation as a way to learn and become awake, or it can choose to become more unconscious and repeat the same pattern elsewhere. This is how the mind can end up generating sequence after sequence of the same pattern of relationships or addictions. It has to choose to use that situation to awaken. Everything in this world is a lesson, is an opportunity to wake up. If you become a spiritual opportunist, you will use every situation that you encounter in this day as a chance to awaken. If something triggers you, triggers old emotion, repressed beliefs, repressed pain, you can use this as a way, as a portal to awaken. When you realize what is happening, that the world hits your trigger points, your stuff inside, the trauma that is being held in the unconscious mind, the trauma of separation. Ultimately, that's what all trauma is. All pain, all suffering, all fear and anxiety is from the belief in separation. When anything hits those triggers, you can choose to realize that this is an opportunity for me to sit with these feelings and these triggers and release it to the divine. This is the true meaning of forgiveness. To release any grievance, to release any traumas, And as it is surrendered in the mind, and this is only something you can experience primarily through meditation, but however it is experienced, when that surrender happens, you are healed. And when you are healed, when the heart is healed, it starts to open. And that situation that seemed to trigger you no longer has any hold over you. It no longer has reality. It's as if it never happened. When you forgive and you truly release things from your awareness, it's as if none of it ever happened. And isn't it that way in a dream, in any dream? It seems to be real while it is happening and while your mind holds on to those memories. But as soon as you let go, surrender, forgive, and forget, it all starts to disappear from your awareness. And the mind that forgives is the mind that is waking up. The mind that surrenders objects in the dream, surrenders its idols, surrenders its attachments, is a mind that is truly waking up and becoming lucid and becoming more peaceful. And not peaceful in the relative sense where you seem to acquire something in the world, but a peace that surpasses all understanding, a peace that is not of this world. You can choose to abide in this peace as you keep surrendering everything of the world. As you are given your daily bread, your daily dose of lessons for this day to learn, the Spirit gives us lessons to learn every day. And as you keep learning those lessons, you keep releasing, you keep letting go, you keep coming back within, resting your attention in God within, and resting in this present moment. You start to wake up. You start to forget the dream. Your memory of past events may change because the past doesn't actually exist. You may remember them as seeming events, but there's no emotional attachment to them that grips your mind as it used to because you have forgiven, you have surrendered your attachment. As you keep surrendering, your memory of this dream starts to fade, and your true memory of home starts to come into your awareness. That's why you feel peaceful when in a state of meditation, because you are remembering your true home outside of this dream. This dream world is like a crystal ball. You seem to be trapped here with the objects and dancing around with the characters and situations. But As your awareness goes beyond this dream, you start to experience a peace, and that is your connection to your true self or God. Through meditation, through sitting in silence, this is your connection back home. This is your relationship with God. This relationship with the divine is depicted in different forms in this world, where spirit is trying to direct our attention towards that relationship, such as Radha and Krishna sitting together on a swing. The divine is with the beloved. You are the beloved. As you rest in God, you are literally melting into Him. You are losing yourself in the Lord. And when you do so, you realize who you truly are, which is the Lord. Whatever it is that is melting away, that ego false self of the person, is not real, and it will be seen as having never been real. It never did have any reality, just as the world never did have any reality. All of the layers of this false self must go as you melt and lose yourself in the divine. Silence is your greatest ally and your greatest weapon against illusion. So rest in this silence and allow the divine to dissolve all falsity as you come into the truth of who you really are. Thank you for listening. May you rest in peace of this present moment.